breaking news and weather authority. This is NewsCenter 16 at noon.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm Tricia Sloma. We just heard a special report from President Obama on the Supreme Court's immigration decision. We'll have details on that and his statements later on in the show. But now we turn to two top stories that we're following here in Michiana. Overnight, severe storms swept northern and central Indiana, toppling trees with winds up to 100 miles an hour. They've left nearly 30,000 homes and businesses without power, and we'll get a look at that damage in just a moment. But first, we turn to Elkhart, where police are investigating a murder. Police say they were called out to this home on West Garfield Avenue just before 3:30 this morning for a reported shooting. When they arrived, the front door was open, and 24-year-old Brandon Jackson was found dead inside. Police say they do not have a suspect at this time. Many family members gathered across the street, some in tears after hearing the news.
We have a 24-year-old that was killed, and that's sad. We hope to be able to get some more information and get some evidence that leads to the arrest of whoever committed this crime.
Jackson's autopsy is expected to take place tomorrow. The family says he would have turned 25 next month. It was a rough night for many folks around Michiana. Strong winds last night caused major damage, and one neighborhood in South Bend was particularly hit hard. A massive tree was uprooted during the storm and landed right on this home on Altgeld Street. Part of what appears to be the siding of the house is left dangling, and a tree limb managed to even damage the roof of the neighbor's house. Only a block away on the same street, another tree completely blocks the road. This tree managed to miss most of the home during the fall, but crashed into a cars parked in the street and driveway.
My wife called and said, you need to come inside right now because the wind's blowing pretty hard. So we said, we're going to stick it out just a little bit. The next thing you know, we heard a loud crack and a boom. And it was one of the branches from our tree falling down onto our power, and the lights went out completely. And then we just said, it looks like we should probably listen to Mom.
Yeah, I think so. As of this morning, the 1200 block of Altgeld Street and Lear is closed. And now look at this. Wind gusts of up to 100 miles an hour brought down a 180-foot communications tower early this morning. This all happened in Howard County. The tower came to rest on an RV dealership, damaging several vehicles as well as a building. The tower narrowly missed a propane tank when it fell. The radio tower is used for broadband internet service as well as ambulance and police communications in the area. Climbing crews will move the communications equipment to a local water tower to get those services back up and running. And before last night's storm, already thousands across Michiana have been suffering with no power, and now even more today. So let's take a look at the outage numbers. Elkhart County popped back on the map with a little over 300 people in the dark. 4,000 customers in St. Joseph County have no power. Looking north to Berrien County, 1,900 people are hoping to turn their lights back on soon. Storm Team 16 will continue to bring you the very latest on the second round of summer storms. Follow us on air and online for up-to-the-minute coverage. It was like adding insult to injury. Meteorologist Chuck Heaver joins us. Some of these families are really getting hit hard with a double whammy, Chuck.
Yeah, I'll bet some of those people that lost power on Monday are probably still without power, and it's Thursday. A whole week without power. Not good. Well, it's calm now. The storms are over, yes. Take a look at this sky view. Wait a minute. Is it possible? Yes. There's blue sky. Yeah, okay. It's always good when you get the forecast a little right. I said partly cloudy later in the day, and it's 74 right now in South Bend. Like I said, 74 up in Benton Harbor. But for today, we're just going to go with sun and clouds, more clouds than sun, an occasional scattered isolated shower not out of the question. And then tonight, 59. Much drier air moves in the overnight hours tonight. And have I got a forecast for your Friday and Saturday? You're going to want to stick around till after the break. And then I'm going to give it right to you. You're going to love it. Tricia?
Can't wait. All right, Chuck, thank you. Well, breaking news on Capitol Hill. That unprecedented sit-in by Democrats on the House floor continues at this hour. Their demand is for a vote on tougher gun laws, but Democrats have their eyes on the November election. Steve Handelsman has the latest. And House Democrats are taking a page from Donald Trump's surprising success, attacking the way Washington does business, looking for votes from Americans who are fed up. Meanwhile, the House has passed the long-awaited Zika funding bill, but the White House and Democrats say it includes unreasonable spending cuts and policy changes relating to women's health. Amid a Democratic sit-in to demand votes on gun control, the House adjourned after a 239 to 171 vote to approve a $1.1 billion Zika funding bill. But the White House and congressional Democrats are criticizing the bill, saying it includes a section that would restrict who could provide birth control services to women. Well over 200 pregnant women in the U.S. have been diagnosed with Zika, and all of which had traveled outside the country. What looks like President Obama's immigration plan that sought to shield millions living in the U.S. illegally from deportation isn't going anywhere thanks to a tied vote. The justice's one-sentence opinion effectively kills the plan for the duration of Obama's presidency. But as we just heard from the president himself, he predicts that the U.S. immigration system will eventually be overhauled. And he says it's not a matter of if, but a matter of when. Staying in the courts now, the University of Texas Affirmative Action Program was upheld by a vote of 4-3. Justice Anthony Kennedy wrote the majority opinion for the court. He says that in the case of University of Texas, affirmative action is still necessary, but the opinion goes on to say the university must engage in constant deliberation and continued reflection regarding its administration, or rather admission policies. The case centers on Abigail Fisher, a white woman who claims she was not admitted to the school because she is white. Major news now out of Baltimore. A police officer charged with depraved heart murder and other crimes in connection with the death of Freddie Gray has been found not guilty on all charges. Officer Cesar Goodson was the driver of the police transport van in which 25-year-old Gray broke his neck last April last year. His death triggered riots in Baltimore. Goodson was charged with murder, manslaughter, assault, reckless endangerment, and misconduct in office. But after hearing 5 days of testimony, Judge Barry Williams has acquitted Goodson of all charges. Across the pond, voters in Britain are deciding today whether their country should remain in the European Union in an historic referendum that will determine the nation's future for generations to come. More than 46 million people have registered to vote on this decision. The heated campaign saw that nation take stock of its place in the modern world, even as it questioned the direction it wanted to take in the future.
This is, I'd say, the most important day in the past 20 years, at least for the UK. And the economic consequences of a vote out are huge, so that's why I'm voting to stay.
Leave campaigners claim that only a British exit can restore power to Parliament and control immigration, while the Remain campaign argues that Britain is safer and richer inside the 28-nation EU. Back here in Michiana, a man was in court today accused in the death of a 2-year-old Plymouth girl. Prosecutors say Serenity Wilson died at the hands of her mother's boyfriend, 23-year-old Shane Weedling. An autopsy revealed she suffered multiple blunt force injuries to her head. Weedling also faces charges of aggravated battery and neglect of a dependent, resulting in death. His trial is set for September 27th. The girl's mother, Christy Lavenway, was sentenced in December to 35 years in prison for failing to get prompt medical attention for the little girl who was bleeding and unconscious. Veterans are getting another nod in our community. A memorial is being built in Mishawaka to honor those served. Yesterday, shovels broke ground on the Veterans Memorial outside the Center for Hospice. It's right along the Riverwalk next to Central Park. And when construction ends this fall, you can expect to see a brick walkway and a wall with names of veterans. There will be flags and stone benches honoring each military branch. One man hopes the memorial encourages visitors to talk about and think about folks who fight for our freedom.
I wish people would do that, because every veteran out there doesn't do that, anything that they did in the service for themselves. They did it for the country and the people in it. So God bless them all.
A dedication ceremony is set for October 19th. Big news for the area. In a rare early renewal, the South Bend Cubs and the Chicago Cubs have extended their player development contract 2.5 years before it actually expires. The new agreement cements South Bend's affiliation with Chicago through the 2020 seasons, representing an unprecedented 6-year commitment. In other news, the owners of the Pulse nightclub will hold a fundraising event tonight in Orlando's Thornton Park. Organizers say the event will be half party, half memorial, and that funds will benefit employees of the nightclub. This will be the first event held by Pulse nightclub since the night of the shooting and is scheduled to begin at 5 this afternoon. Well, still ahead, a break from the storms, but are they all through? We're going to talk to Chuck in a moment with our Storm Team 16 forecast. Plus, free tickets from Ticketmaster could be yours thanks to a class action lawsuit settlement. We'll explain how it all works.
You're watching WNDU, your breaking news and weather authority. News Center 16 at noon.